Life is full of good, bad, and ugly. And I think that's really what the book of Ecclesiastes is about, what Solomon is trying to show us and remind us of. And, obviously, God is the only source of good. God is the only way we can find what is truly good in this life. But as we look at the fourth chapter of Ecclesiastes today, Solomon talks about some good things in this life, but also some of the bad and ugly that we see around us, which, again, knowing all of the bad and ugly that's around in this world, the evil, we need to evermore be looking for the good, striving after God, focusing on Him. So let's look, as we continue in our study of Ecclesiastes now, let's look in chapter 4 together, beginning in verse 1. And actually at the end of chapter 3, Solomon had mentioned about, the oppression that unfortunately is found in the world, the injustice that is sadly there at times where it shouldn't be. That's, of course, some of the bad and ugly. And he really continues in chapter 4 here when he says in verse 1, "Then I returned and considered all the oppression that is done under the sun. And look, the tears of the oppressed, but they have no comforter. On the side of their oppressors there is power, but they have no comforter. Therefore I praised the dead, who were already dead, more than the living who are still alive. Yet better than both is he who has never existed, who has not seen the evil work that is done under the sun." That's a pretty seemingly dark words that Solomon is using in description, but his point is just the reality of the evil that's done in this life and how hard it is to go through that. If you're the one being oppressed, how hard it is to see that being done on this earth. And so basically Solomon says, it's better to not even have been born, so that you don't ever have to see that there is evil in this world and in this life. But Solomon knows, and we all know, we can't get away from the evils of this world. We can't, get away from the oppressions in this world, that they're there. They're in this world, and we need to do everything we can to live, good lives and make sure that in our own lives and influence there's justice done and love and service and all that is good. But there will always be evil and injustice in this world, which is why we need to continue to turn to God, focus on God. But Solomon is really just feeling that. He's acknowledging the oppression, the injustice, the suffering in this world that is the reality. The next thing he deals with in verses 4 through 6, really 4 through 8, he says, "Again, I saw that for all toil and every skillful work Again, I saw that for all toil and every skillful work, a man is envied by his neighbor. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind." A man can toil and work hard. A man is skillful at what he does, and that should be good. And people should be thankful and rejoice with this person that they're able to work and labor and do these things. But instead, there is sometimes envy from neighbors who are envious of what he has or what he can do. And that is a sad evil and reality of this world. It is vanity. As he goes on to say, "The fool folds his hands and consumes his own flesh." Fool, just lazy, wants to envy people but do nothing himself, consumes his own flesh. And so Solomon says, "Better a handful with quietness than both hands full together with toil and grasping for the wind." I think a bit of contentment there goes a long way. He goes on to say, I returned and I saw vanity under the sun. There is even one who is alone, without a companion. Without a companion. He has neither son nor brother, yet there is no end to all his labors. Nor is his eye satisfied with riches. But he never asks, for whom do I toil and deprive myself of good? This also is vanity and a grave misfortune, or an evil task. A man who, he spends and, if you will, wastes his life away, working and toiling, gaining more and more riches and wealth, and he's never satisfied, but, he's not doing it, for any family. He's not doing it for children, for brothers, for parents. It's just himself, but he's wasting his life away in work and toil and riches that he's never satisfied with. Again, someone who does not understand the meaning of life and what is truly important in life, and enjoying the good things in life and doing the good things in life. And so these things that it begins with, these few things, again, the oppression, the envy that's in this world, the one who is wasting, their life away. That's the bad and the ugly. But here's some good, on a good note, on a positive note, a comforting note. Here's what something we do need to focus on and remember and value. When he says in verse 9 that two are better than one. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion. But woe to the one who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. Again, if two lie down together, they will keep warm, but how can one be warm alone? Though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Solomon mentions here and values what it is to have people in your life. People you can rely on, family, loved ones, friends, brethren, that we don't have to be alone. God didn't make us to be alone. That if we try to go alone, do things on our own, when we shut people out, when we don't rely on others, when we don't make those relationships and with family and with friends and brethren, to be alone is a dangerous thing. To be alone is a hard thing, a difficult thing, a sad thing. But Solomon mentions here in several illustrations of the beauty of what it is to have those you can count on for help, for love, support, protection. And we need to find those people. We need to have those people in our lives, whoever that may be, family, friends, and cherish them, value them, be thankful for them, be the same for them, help them, love them, care for them. That's what Solomon mentions here. This is the good stuff in this life. The good stuff of having family and friends, brethren, loved ones that care, that you can lean on, that you can count on, and what a blessing that really is. But then Solomon finishes out this chapter on a not so good note, kind of bad, ugly note here in chapter 4. When he talks about, and he says it this way, better a poor and wise youth than an old and foolish king who will be admonished no more, or an old and foolish king who will no longer listen to instruction, to correction, to advice. Because then he goes on to say, for he, came out of prison, or he comes out of prison to be king, although he was born poor in his own kingdom, he's risen, to power. I saw all the living who walk under the sun they were there with the second youth who stands in his place. There was no end of all the people over whom he was made king, yet those who come afterward will not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and grasping for the wind. What I get out of this, and asking what exactly is Solomon talking about here, is people come and go. This guy who may be king, and he may be king for a while, but somebody's going to take his place. He's not going to be remembered anymore. So popularity, power, status, all those things don't mean anything, really. Not in the long run. They're not what truly matter in this life. It comes, it goes. And so we've got to remember and strive after what is truly important. And like this man who may have become king, this man who may not listen anymore, somebody else takes his place, time goes on. We've got to focus again on the good, the meaningful, the purpose that God has given us in this life. And to remember that the things this world offers, wealth, status, power, those are not the things that are going to last. What's going to last is all that is good. That God blesses us with, that God gives us to do in this life. And Solomon reminds us of that here in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, and really in the whole book of Ecclesiastes that we're going to be looking at and studying together. But I think one of the important things about the book of Ecclesiastes is acknowledging the bad and the ugly in this world. But again, saying, okay, so what's the answer? If there's all these bad things and, even depressing things in the world, then what's the answer? What's the point of it all? What's going to get us through? What's going to give us purpose? What's going to give us hope? And it's all about, of course, the answer to that is God. God is the only source of life and hope and joy and peace in this world of so many trying things. God is it. God is the source of life, the source of comfort, strength, peace, joy, hope. And we're going to see that as we continue to study through the book of Ecclesiastes. And so I look forward to continuing in this study with you. Let's continue to think on these things, continue to focus on the good, and continue to pray to God and trust in Him. God bless.